Are you looking for a way to plant your tomato seeds without having to up-pot them later? Just plant them and then transplant them. If so, the party cups are the way to go. Why do people use the double cup method in growing their tomato seeds? Simply put, because your small cells like this are just too small, and also ones that's comparable to this. The tomato plants quickly outgrows these little cell trays. So therefore, by doing the 2-cup method, it eliminates the potting up step. Today, I'm going to be sowing my tomato seeds in the party cups. I'm using the Solo brand, but it can be any brand as long as you have the size to be around 18 ounces. The first thing we need to do is to put some holes in the bottom of the cup for some good drainage. Here I'm using a soldering iron. It's quite easy to do. It's set on 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm just inserting it ever how many holes I feel like it needs to have. Actually, on this cup here, I'm doing 5, 1 in the middle, and then 4 around the edges. And as you can see, it is quite large, the holes. You can make them as big or as small as you want. There are different ways that you can put the holes into the bottoms of these cups. You can use a utility knife or something else, but I use a soldering iron, which work quite well. If you're going to use a soldering iron, just make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. You want to sow your tomato seeds in some really good potting mix. The potting mix I will be using today is one that I made myself. It basically consists of 1/3 sphagnum peat moss, 1/3 compost, and 1/3 of your perlite. What you don't want in your potting mix is large sticks. So my potting mix is going to be light, fluffy, airy, and well draining. After you get the first cup filled with the holes made into it for drainage, you want to use a second cup to act as a reservoir to hold some of the moisture in from the liquid. But before you put the cups together, you might want to consider putting something down in the bottom to kind of elevate the first cup. Now I have bottle caps here. You can use a pebble, you can use a marble, different things will work. I really like the caps this size here that comes on your sports drinks. So you're just going to drop that down into the cup and then just put this cup on the inside. And see, it will elevate it somewhat to get it up off the bottom so the water can drain freely. A good pH level for tomatoes is anywhere between 6.2 to 6.8. The pH is about 6.6, so we're okay with that. I'm only going to fill the cup up about 3/4 of the way. I want to leave some room here for some vermiculite to top it off, and I'm not going to press it down. I'm going to be planting the golden berry Peruvian ground cherry tomato today. They are so cute. They are covered with this papery type of cover on the outside. These tomato seeds are so tiny. I'm just going to sprinkle about 3 or 4 into the cup here, and then as they grow, whichever one is the strongest, that is the ones I'm going to keep. Next, I'm just going to lightly cover it with some fine vermiculite, and this is going to kind of help with the moisture content to be held in a little bit better. And now after that, I'm just going to mist it with some water. I am misting it because if I just pour water in on the top here, it might displace the seeds. So I prefer just to mist it. Keeping in mind that the soil itself is already pre-moistened. I pre-moisten the soil before I put it in the cup. Now all I have to do is just put my cup inside of the other one that's going to act as a reservoir. And as you can see with that cap in there, I do have some gap here for some air and for the water to drain out in the bottom here. I'm a firm believer in always labeling all of your seedlings. I am choosing to put it on tape today instead of marking it on the cup. To create a greenhouse effect, I am choosing to use just a plain, regular size sandwich baggie instead of plastic wrap. You just place it over the cup, and remember that these sandwich bags can be reused. And it just slides on very good, and also it has some air gaps here. This method is very simple and quite effective in starting your seeds into strong, healthy seedlings. Now, if you want to, instead of using the same type of party cup as your top one, you can use a bottom one that's clear so you can see the water as it drains out and how much water is draining out, and keep an eye on that. But if you don't want the extra expense, not a problem. You can just use the same solo cups or party cups that you're using for the top one, and just simply lift the cup up to look inside to see how much water is in there. That will work just as well. Now, as soon as these seeds germinates, this plastic baggie will come off, because we don't want to have too much humidity in here once they sprout, because it can cause some fungal issues at that point. For your tomato seeds to germinate very well, we need to make sure that they are exposed to about 75 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. If your house is not warm enough, or if the outside conditions have not reached those temperatures yet, definitely a heating mat is the way to go. I have used these solo cups many times over the years to start my seedlings in, and they are well worth the time and the effort, because these cups will last for years if they're taken care of. In sowing your tomato seeds in the solo cups, what type of seeds will you be sowing? Please leave me a comment below. Will it be determinate type or the indeterminate? Remembering that the determinate type of tomatoes is the ones that grows like a bush, they're more compact, and they grow their vines laterally. Whereas the indeterminate, they grow theirs more like vines, and they will have to be trellis. The indeterminate is going to give you tomatoes over a longer period of time, where the determinate, their tomatoes kind of gets ripe in about the same time and will only give tomatoes in a short period of time. Growing tomatoes could not be easier, because they are one of the vegetables that you can start indoors anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks before your last average frost state. Now, tomatoes is a warm weather crop, and they do not like frost or cold weather at all. So if you do transplant them outside and have a late unexpected light frost of some type, you can always protect them with some type of covering. Now let's go over some really good tips in growing great tomatoes. Number one, tomato seedlings are going to have some strong direct light. So unless you're growing them outside in a greenhouse, your next best option is going to be some type of artificial lighting. And when you have your tomato seedlings up underneath that light, they need to receive somewhere between 14 to 18 hours of artificial lighting a day. Another tip is we want to prevent the tomato seedlings from getting leggy. This happens when they are not getting enough strong light. So if you're using an artificial light, depending on what type you use, some of the lights you're going to have it very close to the tomato seedlings, only a couple inches away from it, meaning as they grow, you'll have to move the light up higher and higher as they grow until they're ready to harden off and transplant outside. When the tomato plants or any plant is outside, and when the wind is blowing, that breeze will sway the plant back and forth, and that helps the plant to develop some strong stems. We can artificially create that by putting a fan in the room wherever the tomato plants are at, and letting some breeze blow over them and let them sway back and forth maybe about 5 or 10 minutes a day. Or if you do not have access to a fan, or it is not convenient for you, you can just ruffle the top of the tomato plants with your hands for a couple minutes a day, just gently doing that to sway them back and forth to help create some strong growth in their stem cells. When the time gets closer and you're thinking about transplanting your tomato plants outdoors, wait until the soil temperature is around 60 degrees Fahrenheit and the night temperatures are no colder than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. When you get ready to transplant your tomato plants outdoors, planting them deeper than what they are in their pots will only make a stronger plant, because a tomato plant has hairs all along the stem, and wherever those hairs are at, new roots can grow. So you can do this by laying the tomato plant on its side, plant it all the way up to just a couple leaves, or you can plant it deeper into a hole and just let it go down vertically. Either way will work, making a stronger plant by having more stronger roots. Also, to make sure that we're going to receive a great, beautiful harvest of tomatoes, we need to make sure and be diligent with our watering, because irregular watering will cause blossoming rot, which causes the calcium not to be able to uptake by the plant easily, and also it can cause splits and cracks in your tomatoes. Now, usually tomatoes taste better if you do not refrigerate them. But if you like to refrigerate your tomatoes for whatever reason, if you will pull them out for a while and let them become room temperature before you serve them, then they have a tendency to taste better than just taking them straight from the refrigerator, slicing them and eating them right away. Thank you for stopping by Kitchen Garden Farmhouse today. If you have found this video helpful, please take a moment to subscribe if you have not done so already. And every time you give the video a like and leave a comment and share the video with others, you take a part in helping Kitchen Garden Farmhouse to grow. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.